Bro, I'm so happy right now, bro. I've been coping all morning, you guys. What's going on? It's your boy 360 Stacks in his thing, baby, representing TKOG. I'm gonna be cooking today, bro. Honestly, the ban list is one of the most hype ban lists that I've experienced in quite some time. It's crazy how nostalgic this is. If you guys didn't know, like literally one of my top 3 favorite formats. Man, bro, it feels it's not like they're the best decks right now, so it's not like that format we're having a history repeat itself. But just for Salad and Orcus and Thunder and Sky to have like their best cards all at the same time, not on the ban list but actually like playable, like it's a big deal to me. Sky Striker just has a very warm spot in my heart. And no matter how trash the deck seems, like no matter how bad it is in any format, it's always a breath of fresh air to play. Its approach is very diverse. It is able to take meta by storm at times, and it just has such a vast and diverse card pool and a huge just repertoire. Like its arsenal is just so diverse and applicable and interchangeable with different formats. Like a lot of these cards are good and bad depending on what decks are good. Like Shark Cannon can be the most insane card ever, just depending on how the format looks like. And right now, the kind of format that we're in it's not a terrible format for Sky. Sky's in a good spot. This is a format where especially after the ban list hurt Baron the Floor and Borlode Savage, Sky was already able to eat Omni Negates for lunch, but the fact that a lot of these decks just don't end on enough ways to interact with spells and traps and have just a lot of spot removal and just have a lot of monster negates. Sky Strikers have always thrived in those kind of formats, so don't be surprised if you see a resurgence, to be honest. Engage the 3 it's a marginal change, but it means everything for this deck to have all of its cards. Sky Striker minus Hornet Drones to 1 is essentially at full power. It is that deck now. To me, I would love to see this deck do extremely well. I'm not saying it's the best deck by any stretch of the imagination. It still is faulty and flawed, and to certain degrees, the deck is still gonna struggle with itself. But I think that it's definitely worth picking up and testing. This is my list, you guys. This is my take. I was tempted to I might make a separate variant of an all gas Sky Striker variant with Foolish Burial Goods and Pot of Desires and Chicken Game and Terraforming and Pseudo Space and 3 Upstart Goblin, just because it's so funny and so cool. But that is more of a variant for an all gas no break Endymion Pendulum variant, to be honest. So Endymion's kind of eaten too. The formats are just continually giving little bits, they're nuances, but little bits and pieces for other decks to really have a stronger game plan, better lines, and just in general to be able to play more powerful cards in their deck. It's a breath of fresh air. So this is my take. Let's talk about the list. Let's get into it. So I'm on 3 thrusts. I always blind second with Sky. 12 hand traps may seem like a little bit in this format, but this deck thrives on breaking boards. So yes, you want to simplify the game state, but there still needs to be cards present because a lot of Sky Striker cards have to interact with something that's pre-existing already. So Widow doesn't really work, Afterburner doesn't really work, Shark doesn't really work unless your opponent's able to play. So the point with Sky Striker is not to be unfair. It's not very proactive, it's a reactive deck. We're not trying to stop our opponent from playing, that's not the game plan. We want to let our opponent play, we just want to make sure that we can play too. And this deck trades extremely well. Economically speaking, this deck has a lot of +1s that eat through your opponent's interactions while still being a true +1. The fact that Engage can grab an Afterburner and draw 1, and Afterburner could trade with 2 cards, makes Engage feel like a +2 and not just a +1. Because you're getting the free draw, you're getting the resource to be able to trade with 2 cards from your opponent's board while still maintaining that equilibrium of you still currently have 5 cards in your hand essentially if you started with 5 and you engaged. And you took 2 cards from your opponent. So economically, there's a lot of minute little tick 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 small little statistics that make this deck so crazy economically because it trades unfairly, but the deck still is a fair deck. Like, there's no broken mechanics about it. There's nothing that about the deck that screams like that's just not cool. I can't exist. Like, multi-roll is arguably the only like unfair card that this deck has, but it truly is a deck that I feel like deserves to exist. Like, it deserves to exist because of how good it is and because of how fair it is. And yeah, bro, it's a really strong deck. It really is. Like, Shark Cannon's been something I've been debating on bumping to 3, just because of like Princess, just because of the Fireboard and like their graveyard resources being so vital to them, to their follow up. It's pretty insane. I think that also main decking Cosmic Cyclone could potentially be good. But like a lot of the times, like Afterburner truly feels in a way like a pseudo Cosmic, because before playing into the fire, not the Fire King, I'm tripping. Before like playing into like the field spell in your Snake Eye matchup, like you are able to Afterburner them and just clear their spell or trap zone. Like most of the time, I go for the field spell, like especially when I know I can deal with Flamberge in the first place. So I don't know. Like, I'm just talking about some little nuances. Like, I thought about playing 3 Cosmic, and I thought about playing 3 Shark Cannon. Like, it comes up, but the engine is just, like, still strong enough to where, like, those cards don't come up because you lost because of it. Those cards just come up where it's like, I won, but I think it would have been easier if I had those. You know, that kind of scenario. So, we're on 3 thrusts. This card, you're basically just playing 6 engage. So, like, 3 engage, 3 engage, 6 engage. I know the alternate arc, it's not as nostalgic. Like, you know, there's some euphoria involved with the original artwork, but I want to be different today, so I decided to go with the all art on this one. And Engage Broken. It's a really, really broken card. Like, it actually, being at 3 is such a big deal, too, because, like, just playing it as an engine. Like, 3 Engage, a Horned Drone, and, like, a Widow Anchor. Like, if you're playing, like, a Warrior deck, for example, you know, it's just crazy. Yeah, Engage is broken. We have 3 linkage. I don't even have to talk about like the nuances with this card. I think everybody knows now that like this card plays through a lot. It dodges interaction, it forces interruptions, and it's a starter. It is literally a starter. Going second, it's a starter. Going first, it's a starter. So you have 9, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 quote quote starters in a 45 card deck when you blind second and you draw your 6th card. You really don't brick. I know 3 rows is different, but Rose trades really well. In a format like this, Rose is actually crazy. Like, people are making, like, SP, Appaloosa. People are, like, there's always something in the EMZ, bro. Like, honestly. There's just always something. And, like, it makes the nib interactions a lot better. I love having the Rose set up with nib. Like, so that when I nib, I don't trade my follow-up for my opponent's follow-up. Like, I take my opponent's follow-up and keep mine. You know, my resources are still good. Like, especially the fact that, like, I can nib my opponent on their turn, like, which is on my turn, which is kind of crazy like that. It gets to a point in the Snake Eye matchup, like, where you can nib them on your turn and, like, steal Rose and get back into the game and just take Rose in the nib and, like, go into, like, a Zeke and continue, like, systematically picking their board apart. And this deck is only getting better because it has a few more links and a few more cards that are coming out that do change things and shape things up to, like, be... I think it makes the deck better. I'm just going to say I really do. I guess while we're here, we can talk about it really, really briefly, but I think that these cards really do make this deck a lot better. Like, having Cyanos as a one-of is really, really powerful. It's always going to be searchable and accessible. This card's kind of nifty. It's cool. It's cute. I think Camellia definitely, like, should be here. Camelia's crazy. I think Camellia, like, this card's cute, though. It's like, it's not a bad card, but I think, like, Camellia and Azalea Temperance make, like, a huge difference, but most importantly, the card that we're going to is right here, Spectra. Like, whenever we get these cards, like, this deck, I think that this deck, we can just comfortably go first. We can feel okay with going first. Like, definitely. Like, indefinitely, I think this deck is not going to be pigeonholed into going second because it's thriving better going second. And in general, I break less when I go second with Sky. And that's just because, like, I have thrust and because, like, I draw my 6th card. And that's also because, like, I can get more spells in Grave faster because, like, I'm not playing, like, a turbo build, a spell-heavy build where I get 3 in Grave quick going first. But going second, like, you can get 3 spells in Grave like nothing because, like, these cards trade, right? These cards can't trade if you're going first. So, like, your games are just slower when you go first. So the deck's just more consistent. It's a lot more like everything happens like, expeditiously when you go second. Like I think with just these new additions coming in whenever they do come in, because I believe they're imports, yeah, it changes the deck dynamically for the better. It's no longer pigeonholed into going to second, and like it also just means that going second, the deck's just like it's gonna be one of the most consistent decks. Like we can't argue that this deck's not consistent. Like Ray's crazy, and like even playing into Bestials, like with the amount of starters and extenders, like and just gas that you have at your disposal, like you're no longer really losing to a Bestial on Ray. Like to be honest, like Rose is just cray cray. Like this is my girl. Like I've thought about a cute little combo of like Ray Rose overlay into Spriggan's Merrymaker and go into the Therion. I mean the rank 8 the rank 8 guy. I can't think of his name right now. Just to search Regulus more consistently, but like it still ain't worth it. So like these are all the starters. The Area 0 could debatably be at like 2, 2, 3, like because you do have 3 multi-rolls. You are gonna see like multi-roll in Area 0 a lot more often. But instead, as like a placeholder, also to insulate certain cards that I lose to, especially post-siding, like I just played the 2 Therion cards. I felt like yes, this one Disc Coliseum and this one Regulus could have just not been in the deck, and it could have been 43 cards, or they could have just been like more hand traps. But like the deck doesn't need more going second cards, because like I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, like if you don't know this about Sky Striker, like every card you draw is a going second card. Ray is a going second card. Rose is a going second card. Like every single card in this deck, except for these 2 cards right here, are essentially going second cards. Like Shark trades, especially in the Fire matchup, especially in the Branded matchup. Widow trades in every matchup. Afterburner trades in every matchup. Multi-roll is essentially Branded loss. It's a card, you activate it, it requires attention, otherwise you're going to play Solitaire. So nobody wants to watch you play when they can't interact with you. So this card always forces interaction. And guess what? When there is no interaction, like with no bear on the floor and no Savage, like it forces them to SP it. And if you have a Widow for the SP, like, you know, well, no, I'm lying, because they could chain SP to the Widow if they have the circumstances. But like the fact, even then in that scenario, the fact that like I activate multi-roll and like I force them to shotgun IP into SP and like trade both SP's effects just because I activated multi-roll. I haven't even used this effect. It's kind of crazy that I could just Kagari back or like Hayate and then Kagari a multi-roll or engage for a multi-roll and just activate it anyways and like Solitaire now. So like every card's a going second card. You don't need this to be like 2 Ghost Mourners or like Drolls. And Droll is just not like a factor in Sky Striker because like yes you can OTK, yes you can stabilize like game states easily and like apply critical mass with the amount of resources that you have and using your opponent's resources at your disposal to do what you want to do with their cards is always going to make it OTKing easier. But the consistent factor is like an underlying thing that it's just not going to be OTKing that often. I think the underlying factor here is that Sky Striker is a mid-range control deck, and it is able to kill consistently, like on turn 4, for example. Like turn 2, you're gonna break their board, and you're gonna set your resources up, like, and you're gonna start snowballing, and you're gonna snowball on their turn. And by turn 4, you should be winning. You can grind extremely well with this deck, like he grinds like crazy, but like this deck doesn't have to grind because it's just able to like stabilize so well. And then it applies proactive pressure because now your opponent's board is broken and like you have Shark Cannons on standby for their follow-up. So I think this list is everything it needs to be. I like that the Therion Disc Coliseum and the Regulus like add an extra layer. You can go infinite with the Regulus as long as you're killing your opponent's card. You can play more Disc Coliseums, more Regulus, so that Disc Coliseum can always be a protection card, which is really cool. You essentially play 2 Disc Coliseum and 1 Regulus, so you have 3 ways into it. It gives you an Omni Negate, which the deck doesn't have right now. I think things could change in the future, but I like where this is at. These are the only 2 cards that are debatable. I thought about cutting these and just putting in a Chicken Game and a Call by the Grave, you know? Maybe a Chicken Game and a Call by the Grave would be better and less situational, but you're never drawing Regulus or Disc Coliseum and not having like one of your 19 ways to Ray. So yeah, that's essentially where we're at though. Like this is what the list is looking like. I'm thinking about playing 3-star cannon. I thought about cutting afterburners to 1 and playing jamming waves, but I knew that was a terrible choice. And then I've thought about playing multiple talents, and of course, I've been on the fence and debating, going back and forth with myself on whether or not I should play desires. I don't think it's wrong to not play it, and I don't think that it's like correct to. It's just it's a middle ground that I'm at with it. So like I have opposing thoughts in my head that I'm always debating back and forth. But you could easily put more gas, is my point. So the list is not like the absolute best that it can be, because there's still cards that I feel like sometimes I wish they were different. But then I'm like, at times I'm like, bro, I'm glad that I made this choice. So the list is completely solidified for right now. Let's go into the extra deck. We're on 3 Kagari. I'm on 2 Shiz. This is actually crazy that I cut Shiz down to 2, because like I've never done that before. And the only time that I'm not never, the only time that I actually did that was specifically when I was playing the Hercules base, and like I was just like going infinite with like Kagari and Hercules base. But again, like that scenario where like you need to recycle your links comes up so seldom that it's not always like gonna be like you're not pigeonholed into that decision at all. Like if you're playing more of the Sky Striker links and like you're locking yourself with linkage more, I think that like then Hercules base could be like a tactical one of, you know. But right now, like the third Shiz was actually cut for the SP, and like so the SP and Typhon, I feel like if any extra deck can play these cards, you kind of have to. Not like you'll lose if you don't, but like for example, playing into Branded can be really, really tough. Like your Branded matchup is not the very best that it could be. Like you have hand traps, you have like Shark Cannon's probably the best card in your entire arsenal against that deck, but like it's just not like it's not always favorable, to be honest. So like the fact that Branded is just such a good deck and I respect it so much is like the primary reason why Typhon's here. If like I didn't respect Branded so much, I don't think Typhon would feel like such a mandatory choice. I wouldn't be pigeonholed into this decision. I would have more flexibility, and I could say, I'll just play the third Shiz. I don't think that is that serious, but I think it is that serious, as well as having double Hayate. The Zeke and the Azalea used to be just 2 Zeke, but Azalea is a broken card. Like, this card's actually insane. Like, this deck is just, like, the best at breaking boards right now with the least amount of cards while still being able to do stuff on your opponent's turn. Like, it's not like one of those blind second OTK decks. Like, it's like I can, like, actually break boards with every card I draw, and then, like, my cards still do something to my opponent on their turn. It's, like, this perfect balance that a lot of decks that blind second don't have. Kinda is crazy. We know she's crazy. We have the 2 Charmers being dark. Like, honestly, dark and heater are just non-negotiable to me. Like, they're not cuttable. Not in this format. Not right now, sweetie. No. And then the access code, the SP, and the Typhon. So these 5 are the reason why, like, I don't play as many striker links as I want to. Because I like, really, really wish and would love to play, like, pure Sky Strikers. Like, where my whole extra deck has nothing but striker links. But the format is saying no. And, like, my brain is telling me, like, yes, play these cards because they're worth it. And they almost feel like necessities. Another cool tech that I wanted to talk about was Tri-Brigade Roar. I thought it was cool when you're able to play. You're oftentimes able to get away into Ray or a Link. But because it wasn't live on its own and, like, it still had, like, glaring weaknesses where the drawback was, like, spot removal on, like, Rose or, like, a Mirror Jade well-timed could make this a dead card. Means, like, I don't want to play it even though it looks good on pen and paper. I just wanted to talk about it. I thought that maybe you guys should give it a try and see for yourself. But that's going to be it. That's going to sum up the list. I got a lot to cook, bro. The ban list is just going crazy right now. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't do drugs. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You have a good day, all right? Peace.